spicy decks of the week, where we talk about all the cool, crazy decks this week that had success either in tournament, or by reaching King of Games, or by going on some kind of a win streak at the King of Games or Legend level. We have several decks this week with cards from the most recent box that just came out yesterday, as well as a post-ban list deck that has had to readjust itself in the days after the most recent ban list dropped. Starting off this week, we have a Crystal Beast Orcust deck. Now, these two decks actually work surprisingly well together because of our Transcendent Crystals skill. Now, our skill Transcendent Crystals allows us to discard up to 3 cards from our hand, and you can then place that many Crystal Beasts from your deck face up into your spell and trap zone. This is going to allow some of your Crystal Beast cards, most notably Beacon, to become live. You can special summon a Crystal Beast monster from your deck, but you need 2 face up Crystal Beasts in your back row zones to do this, so this combined with Sapphire Pegasus is going to allow you to set up your back row to get those effects active, but also you can then discard your Orcust cards from your hand to the graveyard immediately and start using those effects to summon monsters from your deck with Harp Horror and getting the rest of those Orcust card effects off. The main thing with Orcust is that you just need 2 effect monsters on the field to go into Galatea. And one of them needs to be an Orcust monster. So as long as you have 1 Orcust monster on the field, usually via Harp Horror, you can get something else like a Crystal Beast monster or any other effect monster on the field. And you'll see that in some of these other lists that as long as you just have 2 effect monster and only one of them is an Orcust, you can go into Galatea, search your deck for one of your spell or trap cards, your Orcust ones, and then you get to go into the Dingirsu, send a card in the field to the graveyard, get a big beater on the board that has some protection under it. So really easy, simple combo, and it's just so splashable because you can do something like this where you only are running in this deck 6 Orcust monsters in the main deck. You can run like 5 or even less Orcust monsters in your main deck and still get some of these combos off and only run 1 Orcust spell or trap card. So we see that here. We also have some other consistency cards here with the deck in Rainbow Bridge. It allows you to search for any Crystal Beast spell or trap card, so we can have numerous ways to get to the beacon, and it basically gives us 6 copies of the Crystal Beacon in our deck. We also have other cool things in here like Zephyros that allows us to further combo off as well. So I'll just go ahead and get into the deck list real fast. Transcendent Crystals is our skill. We have 1 Zephyros, 3 Sapphire Pegasus, 2 Harp Horror, 2 Orcust Nightmare, 1 Crystal Beast Cobalt Eagle, 1 Orcust Symbol Skeleton, 3 Crystal Beast Ruby Carbuncle, 1 World Legacy World Wand, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 3 Rainbow Bridge, 3 Crystal Beacon, 1 Crystal Conclave. This is a really nice interruption card that you can just search out really easily with the Rainbow Bridge. And then we also have the 1 of Orchestrated Release. Again, super easy to search this thing out with your Galatea. So both your trap cards are searchable and easy to get with that. In the extra deck, we have the 1 of Dingirsu, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Raid Raptor Forstrix, 1 Lightning Chidori. This is a really good and underrated card. 2 level 4 wind monsters. When you XYZ summon it, target a set card your opponent controls, put it at the bottom of their deck, and then once per turn you can detach and target a face-up card on their side of the board and put it to the top of their deck. So you can send back 2 cards on their field with this deck, which is 1 card, and it's got a 1900 attack point as well, so you can do some hits with it. We also have the 1 Galatea, 1 Nightmare Mermaid, 1 Longirsu, the Orcust Orchestrator, and then the 1 Nightmare Phoenix. We also have the Giant Hand and the Steel Swarm Roach in the side deck. This was a tournament deck that reached top 16 in the Meta Weekly by El Sunim, my teammate from M2S, so congratulations to him, doing well with this. But yeah, really cool that you can end on some powerful boards with this deck with the Orcust engine and still have some cool things going with the Crystal Beast engine mixed in with well. So really interested to see what people are able to do with some of these Orcust decks because they're so splashable in so many archetypes. Next up, we have an Infernoid deck. This is a post-ban list deck that took some big hits in the most recent list. Both Void Banishment and Void Feast going to 2, making it very difficult for this deck to use its trap card summoning combo that was so effective over the past few months. However, we do see some people still finding ways to use this deck, either with Light Sworn or with Burning Abyss monsters. We see this player manage to find a way to use pure Infernoids, which is really nice if you're playing this deck as a budget player and you don't have a ton of gems or ton of resources or time to play this game, and you happen to have Infernoids. This might be a way for you to try to play the deck still and get some use out of that box that you invested in. So we have Draw Sense, low levels our skill, a way for us to get to Decatron whenever we take more than 1500 points of damage. Remember, this skill just recently got hit with the most recent skill nerf as well. You now have to have your life points increased by 1500 instead of the 1000, so that was a bit of a hit to Madolche, but it also hits this deck as well. You can use other skills interchangeable with it as well, but really the big way that this deck is still able to keep up though is with cards like 1-for-1, Void Banishment, and Fiend Grieving. So this gives us a few different ways for us to get our Infernoid combos outright. 1-for-1 can of course get us our Decatron, get something in the graveyard, be able to try to get your Inferno plays starting. Monster Gate is just such a powerful card for this deck. We started to see more players using this card before the deck got hit with the ban list, and now that it has, this card is just exceptionally important for the deck, allowing you to get to your Decatron and put so many Infernoid monsters in your graveyard, as well as putting your Void Seers in the graveyard to protect yourself. But the Fiend Grieving is an underrated card in this deck too. It acts as a DD Crow and trap card form. Of course, you can add target a monster in opponent's graveyard, shuffle into your deck, but then you get to send a Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard as well. So being able to send your Infernoid monster to the graveyard with that, being able to fill it up and get their effects off on the following turn when you summon them back, it's just a really nice way to be able to deal with your opponent's threats that activate in the graveyard, especially with Orcust now being so prevalent. So many decks relying on graveyard effects using the Orcust engine. Really nice card to have access to, as well as Crackdown's also nice in this deck too, stealing your opponent's monsters, finding ways to link off with them, and of course dumping your Infernoids in the graveyard so you can just very easily bring them back and create more pressure on the board for your opponent. So going in the deck list real quick, we have the 1 Deviati, 3 Decatron, 1 Sight Samus, 1 Patrula, 1 Harmadic, 1 Piatti, 1 Antra, 1 1-for-1, a Monster Gate, a single Void Vanishment, 3 Void Seer, 3 Crackdown, 1 Void Feast, 3 Fiend Grieving, and in the extra deck we have 1 Unicorn, 1 Salamangreat Heatleo, 1 Sunlight Wolf, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Dual Little Chimera, a Link Disciple, and a Pentastag, rounding out this list. Next up, we have an Onomat deck that is also making use of the new Orcust card. So we have a few new things here, right? Because Onomat's also got a new support card in the most recent box. A really good one, too, that pairs nicely with the card they got earlier this year in the selection box, Automata. Unfortunate that this deck is still a little bit pay to play, because you have to have 3 copies, or at least 2 copies of Automata to make it work right. But the new Automata Pickup card definitely helps out with that if you do have at least 1 copy of the card. The newest one we got, Automata Pickup, is a continuous spell card that says when you activate this card, add an Automat card from your deck to hand. So obviously you add the Automata, which if you don't know what this card does, you discard a card and then you get to add 2 Automat monsters from your deck to hand that are of different archetypes, the Gagaga, Zubaba, that type of thing. So you add 2 monsters from your deck to hand with it. It allows you to get any combo you want basically with this deck very easily. If you want to add Sister to hand, Automata, whatever you need to add to hand to make your combo ideal, you can basically get it every time as long as you have Automata. And now we have another card that allows you to search it out from your deck. So basically we have 6 copies of this card that allows you to search whatever Automat monster you need from your deck so that you can very consistently combo off. But even more than that, Automata Pickup allows you to change the levels of 2 monsters on your side of the board. They have to be of the Automat archetype. By the way, you can change the levels of monsters in your field, make them the same so you can go into whatever kind of XYZ monsters you want as well. Extremely powerful card, extremely important pickup for the deck. And again, it's a face-up continuous spell card, so you can do the level changing thing once per turn. So extremely powerful card for this deck to get. Really allows Automats to come into your own. And again, we're seeing different ways that people are able to mix the Orcust engine into so many different decks. It's so splashable. You only need, in this case, 7 cards out of a 30-card deck to make it work. You have the 5 Orcust monsters, a couple Orcust spell or trap cards. Really awesome that we're able to see this. And you can end on some pretty intimidating boards with this deck as well. From what I understand, you can end on a board of Beatrice, Dingirsu, and Abyss Dweller, or Giant Hand. Giant Hand was in the side deck of this deck as well. But you can end on Dingirsu, Beatrice, and Dweller, or Giant Hand on the field. That is extremely intimidating, extremely difficult to get through when your opponent has a Dweller or Giant Hand that negate monster effects, and they have a Beatrice that can send Tackle Crusader to the graveyard, plus Dingirsu to protect that whole board. That's extremely powerful. So in the deck list, we have Life Point Boost Alpha as our skill. We have 1 Utopic Onomatopoeia, 1 Zubaba Bancho, 1 Orcus Heart Horror, 1 Tackle Crusader, 3 Scrap Recycler, 1 Gaga Sister, 1 Orcus Nightmare, 1 Orcus Symbol Skeleton, 1 World Legacy Worldwand, 1 Brass Bombard, 1 Orchestrated Babble, the new field spell that just came out through the card trader. We also have 3 Onomatopoeia, 3 MST, 3 Cosmic Cyclone, 3 Automata Pickup, 1 Gagaga Revenge, 1 Orchestrated Return. This card is so cool, just a draw 2 for the Orcust cards, and then you get to activate the Orcust monster graveyard effect, so it acts as a +1 basically. And then we have 3 Crackdown finishing out the rest of the deck. Extra deck, as I mentioned, we have 1 Dingirsu, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Beatrice, 1 Unicorn, 2 Galatea, 1 Longirsu, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, and then again, I want to mention also the side deck that we had the Giant Hand and the Steel Swarm Roach that you can run as well. Plus 3 Lancey and 3 DD Crow in the side deck. Might as well just list off the rest of them, right? And then getting to the last deck, another Orcust deck. I'm sorry we had 3 of them this week, but there were just so many different cool ways to play the deck that people have been experimenting with in the last 24 hours. So next week, I'm sure we'll have more new decks, new cards from new decks that are appearing as I'm starting to see more pop up on Duel Links meta. So we'll definitely dig into those. But last but not least, we have a Rokket Orcust deck. And this one has a lot of the same synergy that we saw previously again. You just need 2 effect monsters on the field to go into Galatea. So one one of them has to be a nightmare monster. So get a nightmare monster on the board via Heart Pourer, and you can do that with like Scrap Recycler, of course. But also we have the Quick Launch, which can put a Rokket monster on the field. So it gives you additional ways to get that second effect monster on the field to start your Orcust combos and get them going. We're also able to take use of the Corruptor Ibly in this deck as well, potentially locking our opponent out of being able to special summon. A lot of decks are not, or I mean, a lot of decks do use Link Monsters, but there's quite a few decks that don't really use Link Monsters anymore. And since Mech Knights have fallen out of the meta, not as many people are running that sort of one of Link Disciple or Mermaid to try to get out of the Ibly lock. So sometimes you can just surprise opponents with this card, especially on ladder, other places, and just be able to really just lock people out with this one card and win the game off of it. It'd be super frustrating to deal with, but it's a nice thing to use. But yeah, really cool ideas we can do with the Rockets. Also, since the Rockets are all level 4s, you can pair them with the Evil Swarm Nightmare in our extra deck. It's a really powerful card to end your board on. Not once, but twice you can detach from this card and flip your opponent's monster face down when they special summon to the field. And it's not just one monster, so they special summon multiple monsters at a time. You can flip them face down. Extremely powerful setup card to defend yourself with. So a lot of cool things going with this deck. We have Peak Performance as our skill here. We're also running 1 Rocket Tracer, 1 Silver Rocket Dragon, 1 Arcus Heart Pourer, 3 Scrap Recycler, 2 Nightmare Corruptor Ibly, 1 Orcus Nightmare, 1 Symbol Skeleton, 1 Roldlond, 1 Brass Bombard, 2 Book of Moon, 3 Quick Launch, 1 Orchestrator Return, 1 Compulsive Evacuation Device, and 1 of the Orchestrator Release. And then our extra deck, we have a Gintingirsu, Evil Swarm Nightmare, 1 Unicorn, 2 Galatea, 1 Link Karibo, 1 Nightmare Mermaid, and 1 Brute Enforcer. Guys, that's it for these lists. I'm really excited to try out some of these Orcust decks. I have one coming in the next couple of days that's really, really cool, and also a spicy deck of its own. Hopefully we can get some kind of win streak going with it. Definitely look forward to bringing that to you guys. So, but if you guys liked the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. It definitely helps out the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of the day.